quiet night at a neighborhood park turns into the kind of story that burrows into your brain and refuses to leave. A mix of childhood nostalgia, urban legend, and something that still remains unexplained. Back before phones and social media took over everything, when screen time meant looking both ways before crossing the street instead of checking notifications. Kids spent entire evenings outside, riding bikes in packs, haunting the same hangout spots, and stretching curfews because it's only the park. For us, the park just down the block was our escape, our territory, our nightly ritualer small baseball field with its rusting backstop, sun-bleached bleachers, a couple of worn benches, and a raised playground that felt like a fort built just for us. The centerpiece was an old metal spiral slide, the kind that stayed cold even in summer, that rang out with every footstep and echoed every laugh. At night, it turned into a hollow throat of shadow in the middle of an otherwise familiar place. It happened when I was around 13, on one of those Saturdays that start loud and ordinary. A group of us had biked to a pizza place earlier that afternoon, stuffing our faces, talking trash, and riding the high of having nowhere important to be. We ended up, as we often did, at my friend Tony's house, still buzzing with energy, still laughing too loudly in the driveway and front yard. Eventually, the front door opened, and Tony's mom stepped out with the same look every parent gets at a certain hour, tired, half amused, and done with the noise. She told us we needed to quiet down, send people home, or take it somewhere else before we woke up the whole street. 3 of the guys bailed, deciding to call it a night and head home. But me, Tony, and our friend Rob weren't ready for it to be over. The sky was dark, the air was cool, and we still felt like we had time left to burn. So we did what kids like us always did. We grabbed our bikes and pointed them toward the park. The ride only took about 5 minutes, but there's something about biking at night that strangely stretches time. The streets were mostly empty, streetlights casting long, distorted shadows of our moving wheels on the pavement as we cut through the quiet neighborhood. It was calming and freeing all at once, like the world had been handed over to us because everyone else had gone inside. The park appeared ahead, wrapped in woods on 3 sides. Another dark patch of trees sitting across the street like a black curtain. There were no nearby houses, no bedroom windows staring down, no neighbors ready to complain or call the cops. That isolation made the park feel like a private world, a secret level only we knew how to access. At the same time, it meant that when something felt wrong there was no one else around to make it feel normal again. We rolled to a stop, dropped our bikes, and climbed up onto the playground. Being up there, on that elevated set of platforms and bars, always gave a subtle sense of safety, like being on a ship or in a treehouse, hovering above the ground. From up high, we could see the field, the empty bleachers, the dark stretch of dirt and grass. But to anyone outside the park, we were mostly hidden behind metal rails and the shadows of the structure. We sat there talking, letting our voices float into the dark, just 3 kids killing time under a sky with no real plans, the kind of aimless freedom that doesn't feel special until you look back at it years later. Then, in the middle of the conversation, Tony suddenly raised his hand and cut us off. "Do you hear that?" he asked, his eyes narrowing as he looked toward the playground equipment. At first, I didn't hear anything except the rustle of leaves in the woods and the distant hum of the city far beyond the trees. Rob shrugged, like Tony was just messing with us. but the way Tony kept staring made the air feel heavier. We fell silent for a few long moments, each of us listening more intently than we wanted to admit. That was when we heard a dull, solid thud, like something heavy hitting the metal or plastic of the playground behind us. It wasn't a twig snapping or an animal skittering by. It sounded intentional, close, and wrong. We got up immediately, scanning around the structure, peering over the edge, trying to see what had made the noise. We called out into the dark, "Hello, is someone there?" Our voices sounded smaller than they had just a few minutes before, swallowed by the open space of the park. No one answered. No footsteps were running away. No giggles, no shapes darting out from behind the equipment. The park felt empty, but not in a peaceful way, quiet so complete it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. We tried to laugh it off, making a few half-hearted jokes to cover the nervousness, but none of us really relaxed back into the conversation. Once you notice that something might be off, it's hard to pretend everything is normal again. And then it shifted from weird to truly wrong. While we were still on the playground, the sound came again, but this time it wasn't a thud, it was a voice. It came from inside the spiral metal slide. It wasn't the voice of one of us. It wasn't the voice of a teenager at all. It sounded like a toddler, small, soft, and close. The kind of voice you'd expect to hear at noon on a crowded playground, not after dark in an almost empty park. I moved closer to the opening of the slide, my heart already picking up speed. I didn't see anyone standing at the top. I didn't see any legs hanging over the edge. Still, I leaned in and called out, "Is someone in there?" There was a pause, a stillness, where even the leaves seemed to hold their breath. Then the voice answered. "Hello," it said, quietly, from somewhere inside that twisting metal tunnel. Every part of me locked up. Tony and Rob both stared at the slide with wide eyes, just as stunned as I was. We hadn't heard anyone climb the steps or shuffle into the slide. There had been no child playing nearby before that moment, no parent, no stroller, nothing. I tried to anchor myself in the most reasonable explanation. A little kid must have climbed in while we were distracted. Maybe they were hiding, maybe they were stuck. That thought cut through the fear just enough to make me move. I did what I thought was the responsible thing. I climbed into the slide. The metal felt cold and smooth under my hands as I lowered myself into the throat of the structure. Every scrape of my clothes, amplified by the hollow tube. I braced myself, expecting the awkward collision of an unexpected body somewhere mid-slide, or at the very least to tumble out at the bottom and find a small, frightened kid waiting to be helped. I slid down, turned with the twist of the metal, and dropped out onto the ground. The bottom of the slide yawned open into empty air. No child, no one crouched there, no one scrambling away. I scrambled around the base of the slide, checking underneath, looking behind the supports, scanning the ground for any sign of someone running off. The others climbed down and joined me, and we spread out, searching the entire playground area. We circled the structure, looked across the field, peered toward the trees, calling out again, "Hey, where are you? Are you okay?" Nothing answered. The park was still. That's when the voice came again. It came from the slide. Same small, childlike tone. But this time, it said something else. Just 2 words. "Catch me." Those words changed everything. Catch me isn't something a kid says when they're stuck or scared. It's something you say when you're playing a game, when you're running away on purpose, when you want someone to chase you. In the middle of a dark, mostly empty park, coming from a slide that had just proven itself empty. Catch me didn't sound playful. It sounded like bait, a challenge, a lure. Every rational explanation I had been clinging to evaporated. None of us talked, none of us argued. Instinct took over, and all three of us bolted. We grabbed our bikes and took off as fast as we could, gravel crunching under our tires as we shot out of the park and back onto the street. The 5-minute ride home felt warped, stretched, and compressed at the same time, as if something was just behind us, just out of sight, matching our speed. Every shadow we passed looked like it might step out from the trees. Every sound, even the normal creaks and distant traffic, twisted into something threatening in my mind. We didn't slow down, not at the corners, not near Tony's house, not until we were back at my place, pulling into the backyard like we were crossing some invisible finish line. We clustered there in the dim light, adrenaline still pumping, voices lowered to nervous whispers, as if raising them would draw something down on us. We tried to piece it together. Maybe someone had been hiding in the slide, we said. Maybe they'd slipped out while I was climbing in. Maybe it was an older kid messing with us, throwing their voice from somewhere in the dark. Every theory we came up with fell apart the second we said it out loud. None of us had seen anyone. None of us had heard the distinct sounds of someone climbing or running away. The park had felt empty, but the slide had spoken. As we were talking, a new sound interrupted us. A knock at the backyard gate. Not the front door, not the side door, the gate at the back, the one that led out to the alley or side path. The knock was calm, not frantic, just a firm, steady tapping that immediately shut all of us up mid-sentence. We froze, looking at each other, our minds racing through possibilities. Neighbors almost never came through that gate. Adults rarely approached from that side at all. Then a woman's voice floated through the wood, muffled but clear enough. "Were you boys just at the park?" My stomach dropped. There was no easy way for anyone to have seen us at the park and then followed us all the way back here without us noticing. There were no houses right next to the park. No bedroom windows looking directly down at the playground. No reason some stranger should be at my back gate asking that question at that exact moment. Cautiously, I stepped closer and leaned toward the crack between the gate and the frame, just enough to get a sliver of a view outside. She was already looking right at me. I don't know if she heard the boards creak or just knew I'd look, but her eyes were locked onto the gap, waiting, and she was smiling. It wasn't a warm, neighborly smile or a polite, embarrassed one. It was wide, too wide. A smile that showed teeth but somehow didn't show any real emotion in her eyes. Every instinct in my body screamed that something was off. She repeated the question, almost casually. Had we been at the park? I told her no, we hadn't. I lied without even thinking about it, the word coming out of my mouth before I had time to process what I was saying. I expected her to frown, to question us, to say she'd seen us there, or at least to nod and walk away. She did none of that. She just kept standing there on the other side of the gate, staring at the crack where my eye met hers. That unsettling smile still frozen in place. No accusation, no acceptance, no movement, just that smile. We backed away from the gate and went inside the house, shutting the door behind us and leaving whatever was out there on the other side of the wood and metal and darkness. We didn't go back outside. We didn't go back to the park for a long time after that. Even in daylight, the memory of that voice in the slide and the woman at the gate clung to the edges of that place in my mind, turning a once comforting playground into a location stamped with dread. To this day, I don't know what we heard in that metal spiral slide. I don't know whether there really was a child there that we somehow missed, or whether someone older was hiding and perfectly timing a cruel prank. I don't know who that woman at the gate was, how she knew to ask about the park, or why she just stood there, smiling, when we denied it. There's no neat ending, no satisfying explanation, no reveal that ties everything into a bow. All that remains is a memory that sits like a stone in the back of my mind, a night when the familiar became frightening, when a safe place turned strange, and when a simple, childish phrase like "catch me" stopped sounding like an invitation to play and started sounding like something you should never, ever answer.
Don't forget to subscribe because there are more stories like this, waiting to be told.